The war between humanity and the reptilian Krell had entered its third bloody year. Lieutenant Commander Hannah Park and her 6-person squad moved quietly through the dense forests of Nexus 7. Tall purple trees towered above them, and strange animals called in the distance. Their mission was simple but dangerous: gather information on Krell troop movements near the border. Hannah raised her hand, signaling the squad to stop. She adjusted her combat helmet and peered through the mist ahead. Something didn't feel right. "Commander, I'm picking up unusual signals," whispered Private June Kim. The young communications specialist frowned at his handheld scanner. His fingers moved quickly across the device's surface. "What kind of signals?" Hannah asked quietly. "Not sure. They're scattered, but getting stronger. Could be enemy communication devices." Sergeant Do-hyun stepped closer, his weapon ready. "Trap?" Hannah nodded slowly. "Possibly. Let's change direction. We'll head east for 2 kilometers, then circle back." But before they could move, a bright green flash cut through the forest. Plasma fire. The air sizzled with energy as shots hit trees around them. "Take cover," Hannah shouted, diving behind a fallen log. Her squad scattered, returning fire at the unseen enemy. Corporal Min fired her rifle into the trees where the shots came from. "I count at least 12 hostiles." Hannah knew they were outnumbered. "June, call for extraction!" The young soldier pressed his communicator. "Base camp, this is Recon 7. We need immediate extraction. Enemy contact, coordinates." A plasma shot hit the tree next to him, sending splinters flying. For 10 long minutes they fought off the Krell attackers. Then Sergeant Do-hyun cried out as a shot hit his shoulder, and Corporal Min's position went silent. "Fall back," Hannah ordered. 20 meters, keep formation." But as they tried to retreat, more Krell soldiers appeared behind them. They were surrounded. Hannah counted her remaining ammunition. Not enough. "Prepare for close combat," she told her remaining squad members. The Krell closed in. Tall and powerful, their scaled bodies gleamed in the forest's dim light. Their yellow eyes showed no mercy. When the final assault came, it was quick. Despite their training and courage, Hannah and her team were overwhelmed by superior numbers. The last thing she saw before something hard hit the back of her head was Private June trying to send one final message on his device. Hannah woke to pain. Her head throbbed, and her wrists burned from tight restraints. She blinked several times, adjusting to the harsh white light. Around her, she saw her surviving team members. Min was missing. Do-hyun's shoulder had a rough bandage. June looked pale but alert. 2 other squad members sat in silence, their faces bruised. They were in a Krell detention cell. The walls were made of some kind of dark metal, and a humming energy field blocked the entrance. "Is everyone alive?" Hannah asked, her voice raspy. "Min didn't make it," Do-hyun replied quietly. "They didn't even take her body." Before Hannah could respond, the energy field disappeared. 3 Krell soldiers entered, followed by a larger Krell in an ornate uniform. Even among his kind, he looked fearsome. A long scar ran down the left side of his face, cutting through his scales. "I am Fleet Commander Taruk," he announced in heavily accented human language. "You are prisoners of the glorious Krell Dominion." Hannah struggled to her feet. "Under the Galactic Conventions, we demand proper treatment as military prisoners," Taruk made a sound like rocks scraping together. It took Hannah a moment to realize he was laughing. "Conventions? There are no conventions that protect vermin," he said. "You humans spread across the stars like a disease. We are the cure." One of the other Krell officers stepped forward. He was younger, his scales still bright green. "Commander Taruk, regulations state that prisoners must be processed and registered with Central Command." "Are you questioning me, Nevik?" Taruk's voice was dangerous. "No, Commander. I merely suggest following protocol." Taruk's eyes narrowed. "I will show these humans and their leaders what happens to those who challenge the Krell." He turned to his guards. "Prepare them for public execution at sunrise. Broadcast it on all frequencies." Nevik looked shocked but remained silent. As the Krell left the cell, June caught Hannah's eye and subtly opened his palm. In it was a tiny transmitter, no bigger than a fingernail. Somehow, he had kept it hidden. That night, as they were transferred to the execution grounds, June managed to activate the device. When the guards weren't looking, He pressed it against his neck implant, connecting it to his military neural link. At Terran High Command, thousands of light-years away, Admiral Sujin Lee was finishing a strategy meeting when an urgent message came through. "Admiral, we're receiving a live transmission from Nexus 7. It's coming from Private Kim's emergency channel." The main screen lit up, showing Hana and her squad kneeling before a Krell firing squad. Commander Tarek stood behind them, addressing not just his soldiers but all who watched. "Let this be a message to all humans. This is your future." Admiral Lee watched in horror as the execution proceeded. When the transmission ended, the command room was silent. "They will pay for this," Lee said, her voice calm but cold. "Prepare for Operation Retribution." The Terran Security Council's emergency meeting room was silent except for the soft hum of air filters. 12 high-ranking officials sat around the oval table, their faces grim. The recording of the execution had played 3 times. No one wanted to watch it again. Admiral Sujin Lee stood at the head of the table, her uniform perfect, despite being called from sleep only 2 hours ago. Her silver-streaked hair was pulled back tightly, showing her determined expression. "They killed 6 of our soldiers," she said. "Not in battle, but as prisoners. This cannot stand." General Junho banged his fist on the table. "We should bomb their main military base on Nexus 7, show them real power." "And kill thousands? Become like them?" asked Diplomat Yuna. "We must use diplomatic channels." Voices rose as everyone tried to speak at once. Some wanted immediate and devastating revenge. Others called for caution and talks. The argument grew louder until Admiral Lee raised her hand. "Enough," she said quietly, but everyone stopped talking. "This is exactly what Commander Tarek wants. He hopes to push us into either doing nothing, which shows weakness, or destroying a city, which makes us monsters in the eyes of neutral worlds." She touched a control panel, and a hologram appeared above the table. It showed a detailed 3-dimensional map of Krell space. "We will implement Protocol Nemesis," she said. The room went completely silent. Protocol Nemesis was a secret plan, created but never used. Only those in this room knew its details. "Are you certain, Admiral?" asked the President's representative. "Once started, we cannot take it back." "I am certain," Admiral Lee replied. "The Krell believe they understand human capabilities and psychology. They are wrong on both counts." She expanded part of the hologram showing a small ship. "The stealth vessel Shadow is ready for launch. We will send in a special team to find Commander Tarek and those responsible for the executions. We will show the Krell and the galaxy that justice will be served." "A small team cannot penetrate Krell space," objected General Junho. "They can with our new technology," Admiral Lee replied. "The Krell don't know about our advanced cloaking systems. They don't know we can track specific individuals through their genetic signature. They don't know many things about us." She touched another control, and 3 personnel files appeared. Major Tae-Woo Park, Special Forces, 15 years of service, 8 deep cover operations, expert in close combat and infiltration. The hologram showed a serious-looking man with a small scar above his right eye. Dr. Yoon-ji Yoon, xenopsychologist, the leading expert on Krell behavior and culture. She can predict their actions and help our team blend in when needed. A woman with intelligent eyes and short hair appeared. Technical Sergeant Hyun-Woo Kang, the best systems specialist in the fleet. He can hack any network, bypass any security. The hologram showed a young man with quick hands and alert eyes. "This team will enter Krell space, locate those responsible and bring them to justice. Not for revenge, but to show that humans follow rules even when others don't." In a secure briefing room 3 levels below, Major Park studied the mission. Parameters. He looked up as Admiral Lee entered. "Admiral," he said, standing straight. "At ease, Major." She sat across from him. "You've reviewed the mission?" "Yes, Admiral, it's ambitious, but possible. With this team, yes." He hesitated. "Permission to speak freely?" "Always." "Why not simply destroy their base?" "We have the firepower." Admiral Lee nodded as if she had expected the question. "2 reasons. First, because we're better than that. If we kill thousands in revenge, we become what they think we are, violent animals. Second, and more practically, targeted justice sends a stronger message. Any species can destroy. Few can reach across enemy lines and deliver precise consequences. She stood and looked through the viewing window where Dr. Yoon and Sergeant Kang were preparing equipment. The Krell think humans are predictable and weak. They executed our people to frighten us. She turned back to Major Park. Show them they are wrong. The Shadow launched 12 hours later from a hidden base. Its hull was made of light-absorbing materials that no Krell sensors could detect. Inside, the team prepared for their mission. Doctor. Yoon studied recent intelligence reports on her tablet. According to our sources, Commander Taruk is considered a hero by some Krell factions. Others are uncomfortable with his methods, but won't speak against him publicly. Sergeant Kang looked up from his complex array of devices. I've created fake identities that will get us through their networks. We'll be electronic ghosts. Major Park checked his weapons one last time. They were non-standard issue, quieter, more efficient. Our primary objective is Commander Taruk. Secondary objectives are any officers who participated in the executions. Remember, we bring them to justice. This is not an assassination mission. As the ship slipped silently into Krell space, Admiral Lee watched from command headquarters. On her screen, the Shadow was a small blip moving toward the enemy territory. Protocol. Nemesis is now active, she said to no one in particular. May they never see you coming. The Shadow disappeared from sensors as it activated its cloaking system and entered Krell territory, carrying with it humanity's response to a brutal act, not blind vengeance, but calculated justice. Remember, to properly cite any material from search results, using tags around the claims that follow directly from sources. The Shadow glided through space like a ghost. Inside, Major Taewoo checked the ship's systems one last time. The vessel was approaching Krell military outpost Gamma 6, where Commander Taruk was scheduled to attend a ceremony in 2 days. Cloaking systems at full power, reported the pilot. No sign they've detected us. Dr. Yoonji studied the station through the view screen. The massive structure hung in space like a metal spider, its 8 arms extending from a central hub. Lights glowed at various points, marking windows and docking areas. Remember, she said, Krell military structures are designed to show power. Everything is meant to intimidate, but they have weaknesses, just like any species. The Shadow docked at an unused maintenance port on the station's underside. According to their intelligence, this area was rarely checked. As the airlock sealed with a soft hiss, Major Taewoo turned to his team. We have 48 hours before Taruk arrives. Our mission is clear: infiltrate, gather intelligence, and prepare for extraction. Sergeant Hyunwoo, you're up first. The young systems specialist nodded and began unpacking his equipment. His fingers moved quickly over the portable terminal, connecting to the station's computer network. Their security is strong, he muttered, but not strong enough. After 20 minutes of intense work, he smiled. I'm in. I've created false identities for all of us in their system. According to their computers, we're a maintenance crew from the outer sectors. Major Taewoo nodded. Good. Dr. Yoonji, how should we proceed? First, we need to understand the station's layout and daily routines, she replied. Then we need to locate any human prisoners. Based on Krell psychology, Taruk will want to make another public statement. He'll bring more prisoners for execution. The team moved through the less-used corridors of the station, their false identities holding up under casual inspection. The few Krell who passed them barely glanced their way. Maintenance workers were beneath notice in their rigid hierarchy. By nightfall, they had established a small base in an abandoned storage room. Sergeant Hyunwoo had hacked into the station's camera system, giving them eyes throughout the facility. Look at this, he said, pointing to his screen. Detention Block C, 23 human prisoners. Major Taewoo leaned closer. The video showed men and women in tattered uniforms, sitting or lying on simple beds. Guards patrolled outside their cells, captured during the Battle of Proxima, Sergeant Hyunwoo explained. According to the files, they're being saved for the ceremony. Can we get to them? Major Taewoo asked. Not easily, Dr. Yoonji said. That area is heavily guarded. We need more information and possibly help from inside. The next morning, Dr. Yunji ventured into the station's common areas. Disguised as a data analyst, she observed the Krell going about their duties. She paid special attention to their interactions, noting who gave orders and who followed. In the station's food hall, she overheard two officers talking. "Commander Tarok arrives tomorrow," said one, his scales gleaming with recent polishing, a sign of higher rank. "Everything must be perfect. Another execution?" asked the second, younger officer. His voice was quieter. "Yes, the humans must learn their place," replied the first. "With respect, sir, public executions violate Section 3 of the Combat Code. Our ancestors didn't face human expansion. Times change, Nevik. Commander Taruk understands this." Dr. Yunji carefully noted the name Nevik and the younger officer's apparent discomfort with the executions. This could be useful. Back at their hidden base, she reported her findings. "There's division among the Krell about these executions. Some follow Taruk blindly, but others question his methods." "Can we use this?" asked Major Tewu. "Yes," she replied. "I identified one officer, Nevik, who seems uncomfortable with Taruk's actions. He might be approachable." "That's risky," said Sergeant Hyunwoo. "Everything about this mission is risky," Major Tewu said. "But if we can turn one of their own, it could make all the difference." Later that day, Dr. Yunji arranged to accidentally meet Officer Nevik in a quiet corridor. She pretended to drop her data pad, and he helped pick it up. "Thank you, officer," she said. "I'm new here. It's different from my last posting." "How so?" he asked, his yellow eyes curious. "There we followed all the old codes. Here—" She let her voice trail off. Something flashed in Nevik's eyes, recognition of her meaning. He looked around to ensure they were alone. "Not everyone agrees with the new ways," he said quietly. "Some of us remember the teachings of the ancestors, honor in victory, mercy to the defeated." "Tomorrow's ceremony," Dr. Yunji said carefully. "Will you be there?" "Yes. I must attend. But I take no pleasure in it." What if there was a way to stop it? To end the cycle of killing? Nevik stared at her, suspicion and hope warring in his expression. "Who are you really?" Dr. Yunji took a calculated risk. "Someone who believes justice is better than vengeance. If you feel the same, meet me in storage section B12 in 1 hour. Come alone." When she told Major Tae-woo about the conversation, he was concerned. It could be a trap. "I don't think so," she replied. "I've studied Krell expressions for years." His discomfort was genuine. 1 hour later, Officer Nevik cautiously entered the storage section. His hand rested on his weapon, but he came alone as requested. "I'm here," he called out. "Show yourself." Major Tae-woo emerged from the shadows, followed by Dr. Yunji and Sergeant Hyunwoo Das. Nevik's eyes widened. "Humans, how did you get here?" "That's not important," Major Tae-woo said. "What matters is why we're here. Commander Taruk has broken the laws of war. We're here to stop him and rescue our people." "You're just 3, Nevik said. "Against hundreds." Major Tae-woo smiled slightly. "We are never just 3. Tomorrow you'll understand. The question is, will you help us?" The great hall of Gamma 6 Station was filled with Krell military personnel. Their scales gleamed under the bright lights, creating a sea of green and blue that rippled as they moved. At the center stood a raised platform where Commander Taruk would soon appear. Hidden in a maintenance shaft above the hall, Major Tae-woo watched through a small opening. Dr. Yunji and Sergeant Hyunwoo worked behind him, connecting devices to the station's communication systems. "Almost ready?" Tae-woo asked quietly. 2 more minutes, Hyunwoo replied, his fingers moving swiftly across his tech panel. "I've accessed their main computer. When the time comes, I can control everything, lights, doors, communications." Dr. Yunji checked her handheld scanner. "Officer Nevik is in position. He's nervous but committed." The day before, after careful consideration, Nevik had agreed to help them. "What Taruk does dishonors all Krell," he had said. "Our war should be fought with honor, not with executions of helpless prisoners." A trumpet-like sound echoed through the hall. The assembled Krell stood straighter as Commander Taruk entered. He walked slowly, enjoying the attention. His uniform was decorated with medals and symbols of rank. Behind him, guards pushed 23 human prisoners onto the platform. The prisoners looked weak but defiant. Some had bruises on their faces. All wore tattered uniforms from the Battle of Proxima. They stood in a line facing the crowd. Commander Taruk raised his hands for silence. Brothers of the Krell Dominion, today we continue our sacred mission to protect our space from human invasion. These prisoners represent the arrogance of humanity, thinking they could challenge our might. The crowd roared with approval, though Major Tewu noticed some Krell remained silent, looking uncomfortable. "Is the shadow in position?" he whispered into his communicator. "Affirmative," came the pilot's voice, "awaiting your signal." In space near the station, though invisible to Krell sensors, the stealth ship Shadow hovered. Its communication array was extended, ready to transmit. Back in the hall, Commander Taruk was still speaking. "Let their deaths be a message to all humans. This is the fate of those who—" "Now," Major Tewu ordered. Sergeant Hyunwoo pressed a button on his device. Instantly, the hall plunged into darkness. Emergency lights came on seconds later, casting red shadows across confused faces. On every screen in the station, including the large displays in the ceremony hall, images appeared. It was Taruk himself, recorded during the previous executions. His voice filled the station. "These humans are vermin, exterminate them all." The recording changed. Now it showed Taruk meeting with alien weapons dealers, accepting banned technology in exchange for access to Krell territory. Then it showed him ordering the deaths of Krell civilians who had spoken against the war. The crowd murmured in shock. Many had not known about these actions. "What is this?" Taruk roared. "Find the source, shut it down." But Sergeant Hyunwoo had locked the system. No one could stop the transmission. Dr. Yunji's voice came over the station's speakers, speaking perfect Krell language. "People of the Krell Dominion, is this the honor your ancestors spoke of? Is this the leadership you deserve?" On the platform, Commander Taruk drew his weapon. "Guards, find the humans! They must be here!" But as he spoke, the prisoners suddenly disappeared from behind him. One moment they were there, the next they were gone. In the confusion, Nevik and other officers loyal to him had unlocked the prisoners' restraints and led them through a hidden door that Sergeant Hyunwoo had unlocked remotely. Outside the station, alarms blared as sensors detected multiple ships appearing from nowhere. Dozens of Terran warships decloaked, surrounding the station completely. They had been there all along, invisible to Krell technology. Admiral Sujin Lee's voice transmitted across all frequencies. "Commander Taruk, this is Admiral Lee of the Terran Fleet. Your station is surrounded. We could destroy this facility and everyone in it." The Krell in the ceremony hall looked up at the screens in shock as they showed the warships outside. Some ran for their battle stations, but most stayed frozen, realizing they were completely outmatched. "But unlike you," Admiral Lee continued, "we do not kill helpless enemies. We offer a choice. Surrender Commander Taruk and all who participated in the illegal executions of our personnel, and we will spare your people." On the platform, Taruk looked around wildly. "Defend the station! This is a trick!" Officer Nevik stepped forward, accompanied by several other Krell officers. "No, Commander. There will be no more needless deaths." He turned to the crowd. "The evidence is clear. Taruk has violated our most sacred laws. He has brought shame to the Krell." More officers joined Nevik, surrounding Taruk. The commander realized he was losing control. "You dare challenge me?" he hissed. "Yes," Nevik replied simply. "For the honor. Salve Krell." Taruk raised his weapon, but before he could fire, a stun blast from Nevik's gun hit him squarely in the chest. The commander collapsed on the platform. Nevik looked up at the nearest camera, knowing the humans would be watching. "Admiral Lee, this is Officer Nevik of the Krell Dominion. We accept your terms and offer Commander Taruk for trial under Galactic law." The Krell wished to end this dishonorable chapter. Major Tewu smiled from his hiding place. "Mission accomplished," he whispered into his communicator. "All prisoners secure. Target acquired." The neutral planet Zenith shimmered like a blue-green gem in space. Its elegant capital city had buildings of glass and white stone that reflected the sunlight. In the center stood the Hall of Justice, where representatives from many worlds gathered to witness an historic event. Inside the grand courtroom, Admiral Sujin Lee sat with perfect posture, her medals catching the light. Across the aisle, a CIE delegation of Krell officials waited quietly. Among them was Officer Nevik, now wearing the insignia of a higher rank. Between them, in a secured area, sat Commander Taruk. His scales had lost their shine during his 3 weeks in custody. He stared straight ahead, refusing to look at anyone. The Chief Justice, a tall being from the Andromeda Alliance, entered the room. Everyone stood until he took his seat at the high bench. "This tribunal is now in session," he announced. "We are here to judge the actions of Commander Taruk of the Krell Dominion, accused of war crimes against Terran military personnel." As witnesses were called, the full story unfolded. Recordings showed the executions. Documents revealed Taruk's orders. Former prisoners described their treatment. Through it all, Taruk remained silent, his yellow eyes burning with anger. When it was his turn to speak, he finally stood. "I acted to protect my people from human expansion. Everything I did was necessary." "Was it necessary to execute prisoners who had surrendered?" asked the Chief Justice. "Humans understand only strength," Taruk replied. "I showed them our strength." "You showed them cruelty," corrected the Justice, "and in doing so, violated not only galactic law, but your own military code." At that moment, Admiral Lee requested permission to address the court. When granted, she walked to the center of the room. What Commander Taruk didn't know, she said clearly, was that humanity had the power to destroy his forces at any time. She activated a small device, and a hologram appeared, showing detailed scans of Krell defenses and weaknesses. "Our technology has been ahead of the Krell for over a year. We could have wiped out their fleet, bombarded their colonies." She paused, letting the information sink in. "But we chose restraint. We develop weapons not because we wish to use them, but to ensure we never have to." Murmurs spread through the courtroom. The Krell delegation looked shocked. This was new information to most of them. "If humans were the monsters Taruk believed us to be," Admiral Lee continued, "we would have responded to his executions with mass destruction. Instead, we chose justice, precise, targeted justice. The trial lasted 3 more days. In the end, the verdict was clear. Commander Taruk and his closest officers were found guilty of war crimes. But rather than execution, which would have mirrored his own crimes, they were sentenced to rehabilitation and reparation work, helping rebuild the worlds damaged by the war. After the sentence was read, Nevik approached Admiral Lee outside the courtroom. "You could have destroyed us," he said quietly. "Why didn't you?" "Because then we would have become what Taruk thought we were," she replied. "Peace isn't built on fear or destruction." Nevik nodded slowly. "Many in our government now understand this. The War Council has been reorganized. We wish to begin peace talks." 2 months later, Admiral Lee stood in a memorial garden on Earth. Trees and flowers surrounded a new monument made of black stone. On it were the names of all the executed prisoners, including Lieutenant Commander Hannah Park and her squad. Families of the fallen gathered for the ceremony. An older woman approached Admiral Lee, her eyes red from crying, but her back straight with pride. "My daughter," she said, touching Hannah's name on the stone. "She would be pleased to know her death led to peace." Admiral Lee nodded. She and the others showed the best of humanity: courage, duty, and honor. Their sacrifice changed everything. The ceremony ended. A surprising group of visitors arrived. Officer Nevik, now Ambassador Nevik, led a delegation of Krell officials. They carried wreaths made of rare flowers from their homeworld. Some humans looked uncomfortable with their presence, but Admiral Lee greeted them with respect. Nevik placed his wreath at the base of the monument. "We come to honor the fallen and to learn," he said. "For too long we saw humans as enemies to be feared. Now we see you as teachers of a better way." The sun was setting as humans, and Krell stood together before the monument. Far above, in orbit, ships from both species patrolled together, a joint peacekeeping force. On distant planets, former prisoners worked alongside their former captors, rebuilding what the war had destroyed. And in schools across both territories, children learned a new history: how justice overcame vengeance and how true strength isn't found in cruelty, but in restraint. Admiral Lee looked at the monument one last time before leaving. The final, Light of day caught the words engraved at its base. They showed us that even in war, our humanity is our greatest strength.